I tested, I think, the screen sharing. Yeah, we can start. Oh, yeah. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Interactive Sukhmani Sahib Ji session. We completed 9 Ashpadis so far. Um, we will be starting with the 10th Ashpadi, which describes what the vastness of this creation by Sadhguru. Before we start into Vichar for the 10th Ashpadi, let me recite the sloks so far from Sukhmani Sahib Ji. Then we'll start the discussion. Satnam Shri Vaheguru Sahib Ji Adi Gure Namahe Jugad Gure Namahe Sat Gure Namahe Shri Guru Dev Namahe दीन दर्द दुख पंजना काट काट नाथ अनाथ शरण तुम्हारी आयो नानक के प्रभु साथ बहु शास्त्र बहु सिमृति पेखे सर्ब टंडोल पूजस नाही हर हरे नानक नाम मोल निर्गुण आरे आने सुप्रभ सदा समाल जिनकी याद तिस चीत रख नानक निभही नाल दीन हार प्रभ छाड़ के लागे आन सुआए नानक कहु न सीझई बिन नावे पत जाए काम क्रोध और लोभ मोह बिनस जाए अहमेव नानक प्रभु शरणागति कर प्रसाद गुरुदेव अगम गाध पार ब्रह्म सोए जो कहे सो मुक्ता होए सुनमीता नानक बिनवंता साध जना की अचरज कथा मन साचा मुख साचा सोए अवर न पेखै एकस बिन कोय नानक इह लक्षण ब्रह्म ज्ञानी होए उर तारे जो अंतर नाम सर्ब में पेखै भगवान निमख निमख ठाकुर नमस्कारै नानक ओ परस सकल निस्तारै Let me share my screen. Those were the 9 sloks from the Ashpadis, all the 9 Ashpadis we've done so far. So we'll start today's discussion with the slok of 10th Ashpadi, In this Ashpadi, Sadhguruji is just describing the variety, the vastness of this creation. He covers everything. This universe, whatever you call, all galaxies, everything. So I think, and most of it is about naming them, describing them, how many millions, how many crores of those are out there. So I think today what I will do is I'm going to go through more of a literal meanings for each padas, and the last two padas will open for discussions more, and we'll take meanings from the rest of the padas, because all the deep interpretations and arts, they are already there. It's just description of different kinds of existence, everything which is in this universe, right? So let me start reciting this. You can recite it along in either Gurmukhi or the Roman script here. Slok उस्तत करहें अनेक जन अंत न पारावार नानक रचना प्रभ रची बहुभिद अनिक प्रकार उस्तत करहें. Ustat means praises, praising somebody, vadyai karna. Anek jan, so many different beings, many of them. Jan are the beings, the people. There are many kinds of people who are doing his praises, the praises of Vaheguru. Ant na paravar. But the limitations, the paravar, urvar par, there's no knowing of the limitations, the end, the beginning or the end of it. We don't know the sense of it, the vastness of it. Yes, but still there are so many of people, Jan over there, who are doing his vidyai, his ustat, his praises. Nanak rachna prabh rachi, bhavit anik parkar. Says, oh Nanak, rachna, this creation, prabh rachi, he has created that prabh, that vahiguru. He has created, rachi is to create. Bahobid, in many, with many different strategies, कई जुगता लगा के, right? बहुविध, in many ways, अनेक प्रकार, and many kinds of those. Says God created the creation with its many ways and various species. So there are so many different varieties of those, and they have been created with so many different strategies, many different ways. So in the slok itself, it just clarifies about what is in the Ashpadi, right? It's not describing deep into what all is there, what Sadhguru is trying to bring our attention to. So in Ashpadi, let me recite the Ashpadi, the first pada of the Ashpadi. Ashtpadi kai kot hoy pujari, kai kot आचार व्यवहारी, कई कोट भय तीर्थवासी, कई कोट बन प्रमेय उदासी, कई कोट वेद के स्रोते, कई कोट तपीसर होते, कई कोट आत्म ध्यान तार हैं, कई कोट कब काब विचार हैं, कई कोट नवतन नाम त्याव हैं, नानक करते का अंत न पावहें. So kai कोट means many crores, many 10 millions, right? A very literal meaning of there. Many of those 10 millions or many crores, basically it's many of them, right? So kai कोट hoye pujari. It says many of them are the pujaris, right? Pujaris are the devotees who do the pujas of in their own ways. It says there's so many of the devotees. Kai कोट achar bihari. There's so many of them who are doing different kind of religious rituals, duties, vyavhar karna, vyahar, like karam karne. Achar is your behavior. So that they're different kind of behaviors they are following for performing religious rituals. They are doing different kind of duties. किन्ने तरह दे कर्म कांड कई कोट भय तीर्थवासी कई कोट बन प्रमे उदासी. There are many who have become, the vasi, just they just reside in that place, they just stay in that place. Is tirath, the sacred shrines, the pilgrimage, the holy pilgrimages, the tirath. They just go and become dwellers, they just reside in there. There are so many of them who stay at the tirath. Kai kot ban prame udasi. And there's so many of them who say, oh, let's go to the ban forest, let's go out, renunciate this world and go out in the jungle. And they prame, wander around in udasi, in renunciation. So many of them, they wander as renunciates in the wilderness, in actually in the forest jungles, right? Kai kot ved ke srote. There's many millions who are listening to Vedas. Ved ke srote, listeners of Veds. Kai kot tapisar hote. There are many of them who call them as tapisar, the austere, like they go through these taps. They have been asked to, they're following that way, right? Kai kot tapisar. There are many of them who call themselves as tapisar. Kai kot atam tyan tare. There are many of them who are trying to enshrine within themselves, within their souls, trying to have meditation within their inner soul. Atam Tyan Tare. Kai Khod Kab Ka Bichare. There are many of them who are kavi, who are poets. Kab is kavi. Ka Bichare, who are contemplating on that poetry. Kab. Kab is a poetry. Bichare, they are contemplating. There are many of them who are poets who are contemplating on poetry. Kai quote Navtanyam Tyame. There are many of them who every day there's certain like sex, like especially that Pathalvasi, the Sheshnags and reptile, I don't know in modern world what is called, that Sheshnag Pujan Wale, right? They have this every day they get a new name and that they spend with that naam. You know, there's some ways for them to get it, right? So there are many people who every day they are doing dhyan on a new name, right? Nanak karte ka ant na pawe. So these are describing, this is still describing all those beings who have realized and who are on the path, and these are their ways. Okay, this is describing about such people, right? Who have at least that awareness that they need to be on that path, and this is the way they are doing it. He says, Nanak karte ka ant na pawe. Says, oh Nanak, still they cannot find the limits of that karta, karta, that Kalpurak Vaheguru, you call him karta, he is the creator, he's doing everything. So still they don't find the ant, the limit of that creator. Okay. It says, Kai kot bhai abhimani. Now it's, so there it was describing what the people who are on that path, right? But still they cannot find the limits. In this pada, it's more about people who are not on the path, who are on the avrasad, right? Who are on the other direction of that seeker path, right? Let me recite this first. Kai kot bhai abhimani, kai kot andh agyani, kai kot kirpan kathor, kai kot abig आत्म निकोर कई कोट पर दरब को ही रहे कई कोट पर दुख ना करें कई कोट माया श्रम माहे कई कोट परदेस प्रमाहे जित जित लाभ हो तित तित लगना नानक करते की जाने करता रचना. He says there are many of them kai kot bhaye vimani, they've they're just very proud of themselves, right? They're just so self-centered. They just think of themselves. They have man, pride in themselves. They're just happy with however they are, right? They are taking pride in what they have. Kai kot bhaye abhimani, no man kar den, self-centered is what they've translated here. Kai kot andhe jnani, says, but they are blinded. They are ignorant, spiritually ignorant. There are many of them who are blinded by this ignorance, the spiritual ignorance. Kai kot kirpan kathor. There are many of them who are kathor, is like something which is very hard, right? You cannot mold it, bend it. Kirpan is conjuice, the miser kind of. They just want to keep to themselves. If they get something, don't want to share, right? There's so many of them who are such kind of stone hearted, cannot be chained, and misers, right? Just kai quote a pig, atam nikor, a pig, pijde nahi hai, they remain dry, you cannot touch them, you know, you can call it dry, right? That dryness. There's certain people, oh, pijda nahi hai, or like they just um, atam nikor, and then nikor is something which you cannot, it's kora, right? It's unattached kind of. It's doesn't get affected again, doesn't get impacted. It's insensitive, I think is the right. So they're so insensitive in their souls are totally insensitive. You cannot touch their soul, you cannot touch them. So they have translated as heartless with dry withered souls, which is fine, right? They cannot be. They're a pig, their art, you cannot touch their souls, right? They have so much of um, kathorta or whatever, dryness in them. Kai कोट पर दरब क्यों ही रहे. Some of them per somebody else's, darab is wealth, ko hi rahe, her lena, steal kar lena, chura lena, right? Onu acquire kar lena. So there are many millions who steal, who have their eyes on others' wealth, or who steal others' property, others' wealth, right? कई कोट पर दुख ना करें. There are many of those who are giving dukna. Here it is more like talking bad of others, right? Who are slandering others. पर दूसरे दी निंदा करते रहना, right? They're always slandering others. कई कोट माया श्रम माहे. So some of them, this shram is doing a lot of work, right? Shram karna is, so they translate as a struggle. They are totally in their style, lifestyle is just they're struggling within that maya, right? They're struggling in maya. Kai quote pardes pramaye. There are so many of them who keep wandering in the foreign lands. No, I go there. No, I want to go there, right? They keep wandering. Jit jit lavo tit tit lagna. It nicely says, whatever that Vaheguru wants, wherever he has attached somebody to, that's what they are doing. That's what they remain engaged in. Nanak karte ki jane karta rachna. He says, oh Nanak, that karta, that creator alone knows what he's doing, what is his creation, what are the workings of his creation. This is describing, in the first pada is described a lot of people who are on that path, then also describes who are having these kind of behaviors, and who are engaged in this kind of lifestyle. And in the end he acknowledges that everybody is engaged in however that god, that creator, has engaged them, and he only knows what he's working on. And that's why the whole slok itself is like, you still don't understand the antna paravar. You cannot, you can do all of this, but you still not understand it fully, right? So here also, I think I'll just go through these, and then we'll take questions. Any questions so far on meanings, or here also it's more about it's just again um, describing more variety between animals, between other beings who call themselves that they are at a higher level, right? So
Mm. So, Lena ji, what is the message we're trying to? What is the message Baba is trying to give to us in these bodies? I'm not too sure.
yeah, so in the slok he's saying that this is such a vast creation, and it's
Okay.
limitless. And then in each pada he's describing one by one, he's telling us this is what it is, this is what is in the universe. And that's why I want to just go through all of them in six padas. He just describes all of them. And I think it's a great thing to have that written in the Gurbani, because then sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, what is myth, what is right, what, like he, it's so much beyond science. Sasir Sur Nakhetar, there are so many galaxies, he's saying so many moons. At that time, who would write this, that there are so many moons, right? It just shows, first of all, it shows how much that enlightenment, that Satgurus, right, their state of knowledge, their state of being with that whole universe, right? How much of what they know, and it's for us to know too, right? Message is in the last two padas, which always comes to the same thing about. Then he describes the qualities of the people who can attain Vaheguru. So that comes in the last pada. So we'll get to that, right? Uh, and then mostly also the message of each pada is also in the last two lines, right? So like first pada, he says nanak karte ka ant na pawe. He says, oh, whatever you do, the message is okay, you know, there's still the limits you won't know in this human existence, right? Even in like jap sab, everywhere it says, right? um, uh, uh, Tere kavan naam katha kavan, you know, based on your karam, everybody is describing Vaheguru, right? Based on their own karams, you are describing Vaheguru. Nobody can describe Vaheguru as a one thing, right? Except for that's what is in the Mool Mantar, right? So this,
So,
so
what about
here in the
people?
second one, Jit Jit Lavo Tit Tit Lagna Nanak Karte Ki Jane Karta Rachna. He says he himself knows, um, and in a way he also gives a message of that. Always I see whenever he describes this, there's this message of accepting us as a human being. There's always this hidden implicit message of remaining in tune and in gratitude with Vaheguru, and not come into that state that um, you are complaining, you are not being present with him, and you are understanding it's his hukam. And by understanding its hukam is also by keeping us on as a seeker mindset, right? Hanji, I interrupted you while I wanted to finish that. You
Yeah,
were asked.
no, that's perfectly fine. Why would people want to know the limits of the creator? What benefit does it really have for anybody?
It's
Because
upon,
it is what
it's
it is.
upon, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that it's everybody, but this is still a knowledge, right? It's upon everyone. Somebody wants to know less, somebody wants to know more, but this is a reality. This is
Okay,
what it is,
ठीक है.
right?
If it was finite, then it would be something because it's already infinite, therefore it has no limits anyway. So
No,
not.
no, it's, yeah, it's
Hmm.
about people. But you know, for your mind to reach that enlightened state, your mind
जी,
still needs to know this. Okay, unless your
your
mind
mind.
kind of knows and experiences, the more it experiences, it is difficult for mind to, you know, mind apne which hai na onu bar kadan waste, you have to keep telling that there is something outside this too. Otherwise then it keeps going into that path, you know, expanding karda, it doesn't go to that, that there's something beyond what is मैं ਜਿਹਦੇ ਚ ਘਿਰਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, whatever I am surrounded be, I have to go out of that. So
Ji,
that's why, right?
there's a circular logic here. You have to be pleased. God has to be pleased with you in order to find Him Himself. So He is the one who enables us to please Him first, and then He will be appearing in us. So it's a circular logic. What should we do to get out of this circular logic?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what
Well, I'm
sorry.
saying
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm trying to put it in a simpler words. I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to put it in simpler words. I think the thing is, um, how do I describe that, right? How do you get out of that? That's what you're saying, right? That
the loop
God.
you,
So here it is. Vahiguru. It's not that we keep coming to that, right? That Vaheguru is always there. His gifts are always there. It is us who have to go take them. It's not God who wants us that we should please him. It is Satguru telling us that you can get to him. He's there. He's right here. You can get to him if you get to this state of mind where you accept him, right? And that acceptance comes from praising, right? So it is more of training your mind to reach that state. Okay.
but he has to be
Now,
pleased. He has to be pleased with you before you can find him. So it is up to him whether he wants to us to meet him or not. It's his based on his discretion.
I won't interpret it really in that way. It's not you have to please him. I think it again comes to uh, Gurbani uses these right here because I think maybe you are interpreting it from their lines like कहते हैं ना जिसते कृपा करेगा वही नाम जपेगा.
Because exactly.
Right, that's what. But then I try to keep trying to put it in more simple words for that. That's not what it means. See, when you see that line, jiste kirpa karega, wahi naam japega, understand that your kirpa has already happened to you. That's why you already have this Satguru's Bani with you, right? Now it's the next path for you that now you have to understand more of it on what you have to do with your behavior, with your this human body, with your existence, so that you can achieve the goal which Sadhguru is trying to tell you. And then you can pavjal to par utarna, right? That things which as a normal human does, you go beyond that. I don't know if am I able to describe that.
Because the last line says you are only emancipated if he is pleased with you. Otherwise, you cannot emancipate yourself. And it's up to him whether he wants to emancipate you or not. So it's up to us, up to him, and not up to us. We don't have the power and the means to emancipate us.
So, see, mostly what we saw in Sukhmani Sahib so far is telling us this is what we have to do, right? There's us who have to do certain things to be on that path, to become somebody who come in his grace, right? That's what. And then after you do all of that, then it's a different levels of that, right? And that really comes in that emancipate and all comes, right, for the totally when you have understood it, when you have realized it, when you have been aware of it, and that oh those are the Brahm Gyani, you will become Brahm Gyani by his when he wants you. You will get totally liberated when he wants you to. But it also tells you that he's always there, and this is what you have to do so that you can please him. So in a way it's related, right? It tells you what to do so he's pleased with you, and then it tells you what happens when he's pleased with you, what he does when he's pleased with you. So basically it's to keep you motivated towards that path, right? That's why
Leena ji, can I say something? Yes.
Thank you ji, Hanji, you're there. Nice. Hanji.
I think the translation is the problem. It should say he emancipate those who are aligned with him, rather than whom he pleased. See, if he is pleased or not pleased, then he is discriminating. The God has to be indiscriminating. He is pleased with everyone, but the one who aligns with him gets the grace. वही सेम एग्जाम्पल के बारिश हो रही है पर साडी मटकी सीधी जे पुठी है तो बारिश उच नहीं जाती, जे सीधी है तो उच बारिश चली जाती है. So the translation or the meaning or the bhav jest. The jest is he emancipate those who are aligned with him, or who are understand the nature, true nature of reality of the universe.
Yeah. And mm, yeah, there are many messages. When I see this also, that's nice. That's one way, is like how we have so far heard in kathas and translations and all. That's what really not always give the right message, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very good way to put it, right? Also, see what he does say, that Nanak jis paave tis nistar hai. Those who come into his radar of that, you have touched him, and then all Gurbani is how do you touch him, how you reach him, and then he tells you that okay, if you reach him, this then you will get emancipated, right? And the rest of it is how do you do that, and then keep telling you this is what you will get from there. Also, uh, this is also in a way, that thingy about Sikhi, for those who are at call them as an advanced level of I don't think anything like that, but advanced level of seeker in different religions, and right, on spiritual path and all, they realize it when that, the mantras or whatever path they take, finally that it comes itself and blocks them, because then they think themselves to be and they becomes more like maybe siddhs or yogis or something, but they still don't get the sense of that merging with that Vaheguru, because they have that ego thing in there. They think it's them who did it. So this just completely dissolves that, right? It just gives it to the Guru Prasad, right? If you go with this mind frame on this seeker path, that Guru Nanak's path is 100% assured, right? That's what I kind of heard from somewhere too. But I really like that example, right? That's what just pavetisness. If you go with that kind of understanding that it is him who is doing it, it's through Satguru's grace you are getting it, you are surely going to get it, because that block is not to come. Even if you understand everything, kundalini bhi khul gayi, sab kuch ho gaya, whatever you call it, whichever ways you do, right? You can get him, right? But this way you will get him, right?
Yeah, but the fact that he has given human beings free will, to put some responsibility on them to
Hanji.
align themselves. So that's why they say God helps those who helps themselves. Je Rab ne sara kuch karna hai, then actually every human being, his creation is a Kathputali of him.
And that's what Krupani says. And yeah, I think we can move forward with this. I know we haven't recited this pada. Let's recite it, and then we'll get going with ours. Kai kot siddh jati jogi, kai kot raje ras pogi, kai kot pankhi sarap paye, kai kot पाथर बिरख निप जाए, कई कोट पवन पानी बैसंतर, कई कोट देश भूमंडल, कई कोट ससियर सूर नक्षत्र, कई कोट देव दानव इंद्र सिर छत्र, सगल समग्री अपने सूत तारै, नानक जिस जिस पावै तिस तिस निस तारै. So let's look at what all he's describing here in that Kai quote. And I think most of the time, this Ashtapadi I more relate to, the correctness and the accuracy of this with how science and everybody is finding what is written in Gurbani for not even that, in terms of spirituality out also, there is things we call myths and things we call, because we don't have access to them and we go about our normal evolution theories and everything, and we just call, oh no, that has to be myth and that is it. But going by Gurbani, right, it has the truth. right? It just amazes me to just read it and try to understand what Sadhguru is telling us about what all is there, in this existent, what all is existing. It says, Kai kot siddh jati jogi, kai kot raje raspogi. Says there are many millions who are siddhas, who are jatis, the jat karan wale, there are different forms of within siddhis, right? They're jatis who become jatis, they're yogis, right? Yog karan wale. Siddhas are mainly those who have attained siddhis. They can do kramats and all, right? Jatis are those more, the literal meaning of it is jade apni indriyan nu kabu kar sakte hain, right? You can control your senses to full extent. They have reached to that. They call themselves jatis. Yogis are the yoga path who follow that. Kai kot raje raspogi. And he's actually acknowledging there are so many millions of those. Kai kot raje raspogi. There are many of those who are kings and they're enjoying raslere and poke. They're consuming everything which is given to them and they are just enjoying those worldly pleasures. Kai kot. And then he comes to Kai kot pankhi sarap upai. There are so many millions of pankhis, of birds, sarap, that reptile, right? Snakes, upai, paida kitte and created. There are many of those which have been created. Kai kot pathar birak nipjai. Nipjai is again paida kitte and produced. Pathar, the kind of variety of the stones. Birak is trees. There are so many millions of stones and trees which have been created, which have been produced. Kai kot pavan pani basantar. Pavan, the wind, hawa, right? Pani, the water, basantar, fires. Is there so many of those? So many varieties of winds, waters, fires, these energies which exist there. Kai kot des pu mandal. He says there's so many countries. There are so many pu mandal. He's talking about the galaxies and solar systems. Poo, it says there's so many of those. There's so many of countries. There's so many of solar systems. There's so many of those galaxies out there. Kai kot sasir sur nakhatar, sasir moon. There's so many moons out there. Sur, there's so many suns out there. There's so many stars out there. Right, and this comes in the Japji Sahib, hai na? We like Kete Pavan Pani. There's so many of all of these almost are there in Japji Sahib. We read too. It's like Kai Kot Dev Danav Indra Sir Nachatar. He's saying that there's so many of these. Dev, how do you translate it? The devs, the angels or the demigods in Devte, and Indra is supposed to be the king of those Devtes, right? And they're demons, right? Danav. So there's within that whole what do you call category or whatever, there are angels, there are demons, and they're king of all of those devs. And it says Dev Danav. In Sir Chhatra just means in Indra's head, above his head there's a canopy. Rajiyan de upar jo, the kings have that canopy. There's a regal canopy on top of it. He says there's many millions of those. Then he says Sagal Samagri apne soot tare. Okay. Then he says all of that, everybody, the whole Samagri, the whole creation, apne soot tare. It's all tied, it's with his own, that creation, that whole creation he's taking care of the strung, the entire creation upon his thread. Nanak jis pave, tis nistare. Says among all of that creation, whoever he wants to emancipate, he emancipates them. And then his again, focus here is to describe the vastness of the creation. In this pada, not to focus on how you become that, the person whom he emancipates, or you become that who comes in his radar, whom he gets pleased with emancipation. He tells us in the last two padas about that too. Okay. I mean, I really get amazed by the reference of Bhumandal, Dev, Danav, Indra, right? All of that, which is unknown at that time, and some of them still unknown now, right? So, Kai Kot Rajas Tamas Satak, right? And now it's just describing more and more of that. I would want to go through this pada and then we'll open up for discussion. Kai Kot Rajas Tamas Satak, Kai Kot Ved Puran Simrit और सासत कई कोट किए रतन समुंद कई कोट नाना प्रकार जंत कई कोट किए चिरजीवे कई कोट गिरी मेर सुवरन थीवे कई कोट यक्ष किन्नर पिशाच कई कोट जक्ष किन्नर पिशाच कई कोट भूत प्रेत सूकर मृगाच सब ते निरय सब हूते दूर नानक आप लिपत रहया पर पूर. So it's going further. It says there are many of them who have different kind of qualities. We Rajo, Tamo, Sato, we talk about that, right? Who are having those kind of qualities. There are many of those who are Rajas, Tamas, or Satak. The Rajas, here it's saying more heated activities, slothful darkness, and peaceful light. It's mainly going to that Rajo, Tamo, Sato, that Maya, de tin qualities hai. And Satak is that purest form of it. You live in that. Tamas it's a lower state of it, but where you're not fully doing all um, the right level of things, right? And then Rajas is, I just refer to that in more detail. I think this is what we had covered, right? And this always comes, and I like to just so the Sat says Rajas, Tamas, Satak, right? It says Rajas first. The Tamas is the lowest. Tamas is the darkness and crudeness, kind of what is that behavior, that thing inside you, that energy, that Maya, the energy which brings that. It is born of ignorance, right? It blinds the soul. It binds the soul through laziness, right? Laziness and sleep. Rajas, where it's the separate kind of quality, that energy in there, which is more passion, desire to acquire things, but it's still restless. It's a restless activity. Sattvic, they call it balanced, calm, all the goodness. And this is called but the Maya qualities. And Guru Granth Sahib also talk, and a lot of Purans and all also talk about the avastha next to it, right? Which is the fourth state. Right? So it says there are many of them who are on those three qualities. Kai Kot Ved, Puran, Simrit or Sast. There are many of Vedas, Puranas, Simritis and Shastras. There's so many of variety of those, he's saying. Kai Kot ki Ratan Smund. There's in this ocean, there's so many of pearls. There are many millions of pearls in the oceans. People still keep finding those, right? They're still found. Kai Kot Nana Prakar Jant. So Jant is the beings, the creatures, the ones which have been formed, right? It says there are many kinds of those. There are many beings, many millions of the beings of so many kinds, so many, you can describe them in many ways. That Jant which are over there, you can describe them in so many ways. They have been described in so many ways, which is true. If we just don't, we are more familiar with our own history, our own, we call the previous civilizations also, from our Puranas and that whatever it is before even, right? That's what's referenced to. We know things from that, we describe them over there, but these still exist. All of these kind of energy, this exist throughout. And then if you go to other scriptures, right, they will describe the same things in their own way, but they all come to the same essence. Every religious and religion will have the same essence of message. In terms of the previous civilizations also, you will say them having gods and goddesses and all, they describe them their own way, right? Kai kot kiye chir jive. And there are so many of them who are long lived, they can live for a long time. Kai kot, there are so many of such kind of species who are made to be long lived. Giri mer suvran thive. Wow, so he tells there's so many. Giri is the mountain. Mer is that Sumer Parpat, which has an existence in, supposed to be mythological, which is supposed to be in existence in that civilization. There is this mountain, right, where Indra used to be residing in Sumer Parvat, jithe Siddhas, Gurbani vich Siddha hai na, Siddhas vich jithe Guru Nanak ji pragat hoke Siddha nu siksha diti si. Kai kot Giri Mer Suvaran says that are also funny. Suvaran says these mountains who are made of gold. There are so many of them, and they're still finding golds in mountain. Think of millions of years back, there must be all mountains of gold, and then, right, it still keeps happening, right? People still find that in there. Kai kot Jakhya Kinar Pisach. And just called Yaksh, right? I read it, but it's written Jakhya. This is within the Devtas philosophy category. There's a Yaksh, you know, there's Yaksh, there's Kinnars, and there are many more. Yaks are the ones who are servants of gods of wealth. Kinnars are the one who sing in that, supposed to be singing in heavens, whatever you call heaven. Every culture calls heaven as a different thing, right? In Hinduism, heaven is called a different thing, right? In other places, it's different thing, right? So it says anyway. So these are those devtas who have a responsibility of music playing. Pisach, they are still the part of the same devtas, but they are the ones who are the evil ones. But the evil spirit, Pisach, because there used to be all this Bethal, and there's all these stories about those also, right, which is written. So anyway, so he's saying there are many millions of those categories out there too. Kai kot Poot Prait Sukar Mriga. See, this is different. The Poot Prait Sukar. Poot is the ghost. The Prait is the evil spirits, right? The Poot Prait Sukar, and then it's again these are beyond human species, right? Sukar is the pigs, and Mrigach is tigers. So that's a variety of existences over there. So those are also many. The evil nature spirits, the ghosts, the pigs, the tigers, there are so many of those too. What is the sense of this pada? Sapte nerha sabhunte dur. He is near to all, but all of us see him yet far from us. Right? He says the same thing. He's near to all and yet far from all in terms of how we see him, how we understand him. But he is there, near to everyone. Nanak aap alipat reha parpur. He himself remains detached. Alipat chuna ne, remains distinct, detached. Reha parpur. And he's pervading everywhere. He's all pervading, but remains untouched, remains distinct. That's the quality of him. He's describing so nicely that there is all of these existences, but then there is this one existence, that one divine existence, and that's how it is, right? I think I'm tempted to go towards with this one too, and then we can maybe open up. Kai kot patal ke vasi, kai kot narak surag nivasi, kai kot जन्महि जीवहि मरहि कई कोट बहु जोनी फिरहि कई कोट बैठत ही खाहे कई कोट काल है थक पाहे कई कोट किए तनवंत कई कोट माया में चिंत जह जह पाणा तह तह राखे नानक सब किछ प्रभ के हाथे कई कोट पाताल के वासी patal, it's called Niger regions, the underworld, world on earth, above earth, under earth. They're actually finding civilizations under earth, right? They're finding the reptile-like civilizations and all under earth. So it says there's so many of those who are the inhabitants of that underworlds. Kai kot narak swarg nivasi. There's so many of them who are of that higher worlds, the ether worlds, that whatever it's heaven or hell, whatever they translate it as. Kai kod janme jeeve mare. There are so many of those who are who who are born, janme jeeve, they live their life and then they again die. They come in that category. See, he's not saying these are in that category, right? They are in that narak swarag nivasi. They are those categories too who just go beyond that, and that's where they are, right? Then says kai kot bo joni fire. So among those there are many who fire, who are wandering around in many zones, in many reincarnations. Kai kot baithe thi khahe. There are many who get everything, who are eating at ease while they are just sitting not doing anything. But there are kai kot who are kale thak pai, who does kale kal karni, who do so many efforts, thak jande hain, thak pahe, they get exhausted of doing those efforts. No, that's how some of them live, and some of them are there who just get everything while sitting. Kai kot kiye tanvant. There's some of them who have been made so wealthy. Kai kot maya mein chint. And there's so many of them who are so much engrossed in that maya, in that worldly pleasures and whatever they are being given, right? This is the sense. Jeh jeh pana teh teh rakhe. Says, oh mind, look at all of these, right? Wherever Vaheguru is willing, he keeps all of them there. Nanak sab kich prab ke haathe. And everything is in his hand. Sab kich, everything is in his hand. Yeah. So he's telling us now, thoda hint de rahe hain ki it's all in his hands. If you know this, right, and you want to come out of that and go to the next level, it's in Vaheguru's hand, right? Yeah. Any thoughts? Any corrections? Oh,
Yeah, again, so back to more questions. I think one we don't understand, therefore we keep asking a lot of dumb questions. You know, you mentioned in the second line about the heaven and hell. Uh, that Babaji's Bani is also saying that we have heaven and hell on the earth also for people in the state of mind. And on the other side, apparently, there's heaven and hell. But there was, in another Gurdwara in the Langar Hall, there are like 15, 20 different posters made by same company. In one of them, they said that in Sikhism, we do not believe in any hell that exists on the other side. So I wasn't too sure if the person who put those posters or who interpreted the Babaji Bani kind of saw it differently than what it is. Uh, what is your understanding from Babaji Bani? So we do have, can this throw to my understanding from Bani. Help
no, so
you
Bani
shed some
Bani
light.
says, yeah, Bani says ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਔਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਗਾ.
Take it. That's my
What those
understanding.
posters would mean, what those posters would mean is a sixth path is not to search for heaven and hell. Sixth path is
That's
for
what.
emancipation. That's what it means. Heaven and hell are the words which are used to describe. You don't like every, and that's why he has to use these words, right? In the Bani, it's using heaven and hell words. But I don't know what is those posters, but the Sikhi path is not to dwell on, oh, I'm going to go for heaven, or I'm going to go for, away from hell and all. They just, mm, there's no such thing, right? They don't tell that, go look, go. He's actually, most of the time in Gurbani, Satguru is telling us about, um, whenever the heaven or hell comes, yes, he says, over here, as he says, there are many of them who are in so-called heaven and hells, and different religions can call different things heavens and hells, right? These are just realms of existence. However, somebody describes this, kisi da heaven ki hai, kisi da hell ki hai, but that's not the reality of, according to Bani. The reality of Bani is to merge with that one truth, with this life or beyond this life, right? That's your soul's journey. Whether you go through which heaven or which realm or what is a different thing,
No,
right?
that's very clear. But still, when you look at something like that, I will try to take a photograph of that and share it, just
Right.
to make sure that I'm not misreading somebody's statement. Because information that is not correctly transferred from Bauji Bani in some other fashion can mislead people who are trying to read it and saying, ah, okay, in Sikhism there's nothing called hell. So I just want to be aware of it. That maybe somebody should be aware. Maybe I need to be aware myself. I'll share it with you guys, and then we can take a look at it. Nothing more. I don't know,
Yeah.
Taji, has something to share.
However, but in Gurbani now in this also is mentioned as heaven and hell. We need to understand what how it is described in Gurbani, maybe here or elsewhere. What it means, heaven and hell, as is defined, as is described here.
Yeah, heaven is very well described somewhere. Not really, I shouldn't call it heaven. It gets translated. It's Bekunt, Bekunt kende hai, right? Or that sometimes they call that, and that Sachkhand also they call, describe as that place of existence where you have a bliss is the heaven, right? The hell is anyway, you are totally in Maya. You are pulled by Maya. You are suffering. Your soul is separated. I don't know exact lines. If somebody remembers, they can tell. But that's what my understanding is from. Right? That's what it translates you. Right? You go. That's why it says you go through heaven and hell in this life itself. And there are many writings over there which actually describe that in more detail. That, oh, when your soul is going through this, that means it's actually all these are existing at the same time. You're existing at different levels, right? It's you to choose which one you do, right? Your soul is existing, having that existing at the same time, and you are the one as in a human form. When you come into the human form, you choose where you want to choose that particular heaven or hell, or you want to stay in the presence with that one divine thing. Somewhere I've seen that written. That's not a Gurbani, but you asked about, is there Gurbani a description about that? The things which get translated to heaven in Gurbani are such, sometimes they translate in some books, or Bekunt, right? Narak is translated as hell, but Narak is also, it's like what you are doing, it makes a Narak for you, right?
But these are all states of minds. Heaven and hell are states.
No, it's not really translated. It's state of mind. It's also translated. Realms is a better way to, I think, translate that. Understanding, maybe if scientifically, in your way, where does your mind go and find home, or not really find home, but gets a place to reside? What is that energy field? Is it more like heaven or is it more like hell? What did you do in this birth to it, and where did it finally get to reside?
Yeah, they say
That's still
that.
an existence of a mind, existence of a realm. It's related to mind's existence, right? It's related to
Yeah,
mithya. It's
yeah,
still a part of mithya.
yeah, but
That,
these are
yeah, yeah,
translated in translations. These are taken as geographical locations, heaven and hell. But in the true essence of Gurbani or spirituality, these are the states of minds. Like home state of mind of home is hell.
yeah. No, that's that's the interpretation. But in all grunts, all these shastras and all, heaven is a above, it's supposed to be more sky related, whether it's they talk about that extraterrestrial existences or other galaxies and moons or something, but they do relate to that also. They do relate it to, and Gurbani takes these words from those two, right? So they do relate to that places in other existences too. And then they also say there are different kinds of heavens too, like Indra the heaven hai, te kisi hor the heaven hai. They themselves say there is a right. And then other religions have different kind of heavens described too. I don't know what is the origin thing, but you are coming to, in reality, it should be state of mind, which definitely, which is true, right? The origin of it, but it became that in the books and the shastras and all of that.
Well, that's why Barney says that knowledge of Shastras and Vedas and all these concepts described there and their literal translations and understanding would never lead to an emancipation. That's why, Guru Bani says that always that the knowledge of Vedas and Shastra is not going to lead to emancipation.
No, not that, not really that. That's kind of, no. There is a lot of knowledge about these actual existences of these gods and goddesses, and Gurbani stamps it that that's true. What Gurbani says, what's not true is taking those mantras of gods and goddesses will take you to only that energy level. It is not going to take you, it doesn't deny that those civilizations had been there, maybe million years back or whatever, but it does say that that's not a true religion. That's not a path for your emancipation that gets you to that gods, goddesses, because of course at that time people got impressed by them. They saw, and then they started following them, that, oh, they have to, now this is it, we have to follow them. It became religions. That's not a right religion. Those mantras, those ways of those religions will not take your soul to connect to that one divine Vaheguru. That's the unique thing in Sikhi. It gives you a path to that Vaheguru. No other religion has a direct connection to it. They have understanding of it. That's where bar कहने की वेद पढ़ ले, सब पढ़ ले. He's not saying this knowledge नहीं, सिर्फ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ समझ नहीं आई नाम दी, connect किਵੇਂ करना है. That is missing. That beej mantra is missing. They can get to a very high energy levels. They get to all siddhis. Yogis किन्ने किन्ने बैठे हैं श्वास चढ़ा के हिमालयस ਵਿੱਚ. Okay, but that's what Sadhguru says. He doesn't deny that there is Naam in there. He says you don't understand Naam because you don't have a way to reach to that Naam from there. So it's not like everything he doesn't call, they're not calling illusion everything, right? They say illusion in a way that it's not still getting you to that one thing which you say, right, in science. It is the other energy fields you get to. It doesn't get you to that one which you have to achieve. As a human, you can achieve it. That's what it says too. Like you are beyond gods and goddesses, right? Guru Gobind Singh Ji Bani describes it so well. You are beyond gods and goddesses because as a human, you can get to that. They already are within that energy. They have achieved that. Now there are other humans who are trying to follow them and reach to them, but that's not reaching to God. That's what the essence is. However it gets translated and described, and then I think, but that's what the reality of it is. Right? Whatever it says, really, there's not, and everything is not a metaphor, right? They actually are the real things. There are very few to the metaphor things which it uses, but a lot of this is all reality. It's telling you. But then, as human mind, we don't understand. Then we start translating it to what we accept as translating, right?
I think someplace where it also mentioned when you are connected to Malik, that is truly your heaven, and if you're not, then that is also hell. Ek kadi ne milte te kaljug honda, something along that words. So with greatest grace, whoever he connects to himself, that's obviously truly, the Sachkhand and in the heaven state. And if one is disconnected, we are Maya. Maya apne karti. Maya, the definition somebody said beautifully. It distracts you. Any Maya is something that distracts you, disconnects you from the Creator. That's what Maya is. Not only wealth, but anything that disconnects you from God.
Sahib, can you say something about this?
Manmohan Singh ji.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ
Notice
ਖਾਲਸਾ
fresh
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
Khalsa
ਫਤਿਹ।
ji. Thank you for that. ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੇ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਵੀ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੀ ਬੜੀ ਮਿਹਰ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਛਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਈਮੇਲ ਵੀ ਹਰ ਵਾਰੀ ਰਿਸੀਵ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਹਿਣਾ, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਇਨੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਹੱਥ ਪੈਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਚਾਹ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਅਟੈਂਡ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਵੀ ਬਸ ਇੱਕੋ 10 ਵਜੇ ਅਪਾਇੰਟਮੈਂਟ ਸੀਗੀ, ਘਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੀ ਗਾਰਡਨਰ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਸਮਾਂ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਲੇਟ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਚਾਹਨਾ ਬੜੀ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ, ਇੰਨੀ ਅੱਛੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਚ। ਮੈਂ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਲੀਨਾ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਨਾ ਸੁਖਮਨੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸਨ ਪਿੱਛੇ 3-4 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ, ਤੇ ਮੈਂ
ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਜੀ,
ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ 31 ਰਾਗਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ, ਬੜਾ ਅੱਛਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ। ਅੱਜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਬਾਕੀ ਡਿਟੇਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੜ੍ਹੀ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਲਿੰਕ ਦੇਖਿਆ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਅਟੈਂਡ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ, ਪੂਰੀ ਈਮੇਲ ਪੜ੍ਹੀ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਚਲੋ ਅੱਛਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੀ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿਆਣੇ ਹੋ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਚਿਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਬੜੇ ਅੱਛੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ। ਤੇ ਮੈਂ 2 ਤੁਕਾਂ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਲੱਭੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਨ ਚ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮੈਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਿਆ ਬੜੀ ਵਾਰੀ, ਉਹਦੇ ਚੋਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਬੀਰ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਕਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ, ਬਾਈ ਚਾਂਸ ਮੈਂ ਲੈਪਟਾਪ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਾਂ, ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੱਢਣਾ ਚਾਹੋ ਤੇ ਕੱਢ ਲਓ। ਕਵਨ ਨਰਕ ਕਿਆ ਸੁਰਗ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ, ਸੰਤਨ 2 ਇਰਾਦੇ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਹੈ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੀ ਸਟਾਰਟਿੰਗ ਬੜੀ ਕਮਾਲ ਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰੋ ਮੇਰ ਪਰਬਤ ਸੁਆਮੀ, ਰਾਹ ਦੀਆਂ ਤੁਕਾਂ ਨੇ, ਅਬ ਤਬ ਜਬ ਕਬ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਮੈਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਚ ਪੜ੍ਹਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ, ਤੇ ਇਹਦੀਆਂ ਨਾ ਅਗਲੀਆਂ ਤੁਕਾਂ 4-5 ਬਣਦੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹਦੇ ਨੇ 6 ਪਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਚੌਥਾ ਪਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ ਪਦੇ ਚ ਤੁਕਾਂ ਨੇ, ਕਵਨ ਨਰਕ ਕਿਆ ਸੁਰਗ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ, ਸੰਤਨ 2 ਇਰਾਦੇ। ਹੁਣ ਨਰਕ ਤੇ ਸੁਰਗ ਦੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ, ਵੀ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸਟੇਟ ਆਫ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਜਾਂ ਫਿਜ਼ੀਕਲੀ ਉਹ ਸੱਚਮੁੱਚ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਬਾਕੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਉਹ ਪਾਲ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਪੋਸਟਰ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਲੀਨਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਨਾ, ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਲੀ ਉਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹੈ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਾ, ਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਸਿੱਖ, ਜੋ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਵੀ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਚ ਪਾ ਲਿਆ ਉਹਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਰੱਬ ਨਾਲ, ਉਹ ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੱਦ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ, ਰਿਜੈਕਟ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਵਟ ਇਜ਼ ਹੈਲ ਐਂਡ ਵਟ ਇਜ਼ ਹੈਵਨ, ਦ ਸੇਂਟਸ ਰਿਜੈਕਟ ਦੈਮ ਬੋਥ, ਦੋਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਜੈਕਟ ਕਰਤਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਇਹਦੀ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ 2 ਸ਼ਬਦ ਹੋਰ ਪੜੋਗੇ ਨਾ ਦੂਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ, ਲੀਨਾ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਵਰਗ ਦੀ ਇੱਛਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਕਹਿ ਹੈ, ਹਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਭਗਤੀ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਕੇ, ਉਹਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਸਵਰਗ ਦੀ ਇੱਛਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਵਰਗ ਜਾਣਾ, ਤੇ ਨਰਕ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਇਹ 2 ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕੱਢ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ। ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਿਜੈਕਟ ਵਰਡ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਫਿਜ਼ੀਕਲੀ ਉਹ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਮੰਨ ਲਓ ਥੋੜੀ ਦੇਰ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਹਨਾ। ਤੇ ਨੰਬਰ 2 ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਨ। ਹੁਣ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਫਿਜ਼ੀਕਲੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਕਿ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਿਆ ਨਾ, ਤੇ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਵਰਗ ਦੀ ਇੱਛਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਰਹੀ, ਤੇ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਨਰਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਮ ਕਾਹੂ ਕਿ ਕਾਣ ਨਾ ਕੱਢਤੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ I have no obligation to either of them by the grace of my Guru। ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਜਦ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਹੋਰ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਲਿਆਵਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਏ। ਕਬੀਰ ਚਰਨ ਕਮਲ ਕੀ ਮੌਜ ਕੋ ਕਹੋ ਕੈਸੇ ਉਨਮਾਨ, ਹਾਂ ਕਬੀਰ ਨਰਕ ਸੁਰਗ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਰਹਿਓ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ, ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਨਰਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਿਹਾ, ਤੇ ਸਵਰਗ ਦੀ ਇੱਛਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੀ। ਨਰਕ ਸੁਰਗ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਰਹਿਓ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ, ਚਰਨ ਕਮਲ ਕੀ ਮੌਜ ਮੈਂ ਰਹੋ ਅੰਤਰ ਆਦ। ਵੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਜੁੜਨਾ, ਉਹਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਜੁੜਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਵਰਗ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਡਰਦਾ, ਮਤਲਬ ਮਾਇਆ ਵੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੇ ਅਸਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਅੱਛੀ એનર્ਜੀ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਤਾਕਤ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਡਰ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ ਤੇ ਨਰਕਾਂ ਜਾਊਂਗਾ। ਸੋ ਦੈਟਸ ਇਟ। ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਕੁਝ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਜੀ, ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ। ਯਾ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਐਡ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ, ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਆਈ ਇੰਟਰਪ੍ਰੀਟਡ ਦੈਟ ਵੇ, ਬਾਣੀ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਮਿਲ ਗਏ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਵਾਈ ਸ਼ੁਡ ਆਈ ਇਵਨ ਲੁੱਕ ਫॉर ਮੁਕਤੀ, I have found Satguru, which actually means that my mind is now attached. It's merged with Satguru. Who cares for mukti, right?
ਉਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਤੁਖ ਜੀ,
more than mukti, right?
ਹਾਂ ਰਾਜ ਨਾ ਚਾਹੋ ਮੁਕਤ ਨਾ ਚਾਹੋ ਮਨ ਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਚਰਨ ਕਮਲਾਰੇ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ
Hanji. And yeah, I mean that's the state. That's where they describe about. So heaven and hell. That's why it's not important in according to Gurbani, right? For ठीक है जी, we are actually 10 minutes over. Any more comments or questions? Otherwise, we can wrap up then. ठीक है जी. Thank you, Manmohan ji. Thank you ji.
Thank you, Bhai
Thank you very
Sahib.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Leena
you.
ji.
Leena ji,
Thank you,
thank you.
everybody.
ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ
Sat Sangat.
ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜੀ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ।
Leena ji.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ
Bhai Jai
ਖਾਲਸਾ,
Khalsa.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਜੀ ਜੀ, thank you, Sat Sangat.